My name is Caroline Poynton from Manchester, Bury. I'm recording this today, YouTube, because I'm not flipping copywriting. I'll tell you what I'm doing and paying attention. I'm voting. I am voting for the first ever time at 43 for Rupert Low. I'm voting for that lady to be the person for Wigan. Manchester North. Up north, I've got one in Manchester. Bury.
Think to myself, what am I doing this for? Other than for them. But yeah, half of it's going to someone else who's done nothing for the country, done nothing for anybody else, done nothing for any of these fine gentlemen here. They're just feeding off the system like leeches, because that's what, leeches. They're just feeding off the system while we feed them, because that's all we're doing.
For over 1,000 years. I've got
They're just feeding off the system like leeches, because that's what they are, leeches. Let those words hang in the air for a second. That isn't a politician in a velvet-lined chamber. That isn't a clueless commentator on a 24-hour news loop. That is the raw, unfiltered voice of a 27-year-old father of two from Makerfield, a man who works in construction, a man who hasn't had the luxury of a safe space or a taxpayer-funded pension. He's working his bollocks off, and he's watching half of his sweat and toil being handed to people who have done diddly squat for this country.
I think Rupert Low's brilliant. I think he's everything we need. He will change the future of this country for the better. He isn't some guy who'll just, dance around the issues. He hits them head on. He hits them head on and says, this is the problem, this is what we're going to fix, and we're going to fix it now. And I can't fault the guy. He is absolutely... Nigel Farage turned around and said, we'll do the rape inquiry. We can't do the rape inquiry. And then Rupert goes, alright, we'll do it then. And he did. And look what he's done. He has brought everything these horrible, wretched human beings have done to these beautiful, innocent girls. And he's brought it all to life. And I think we need more of him. We need more people like him in power. We do.
Okay. So, you're working man, this whole place is filled with working class, proper people, as Rupert would say. What's your message to the Labour Party, the party of the working class people, or even Reform, just about the same old thing? Why restore over any other political party?
Right, message to him is you're not going to be sad, because we're not going to vote for him. The last election, just gone, in this area, was for Reform, but only on the basis I had nobody else I could really vote for. I voted Reform because Restore weren't on that paper. If Restore were on that paper, I'd have voted for them, because they don't have our interests. They all think that they know best for us. They all make these accusations and these assumptions that they know what's best for us, but they never ever actually do anything about it. No, I can't really put that to Reform, because they don't have that say yet, because they're not in charge. But Labour have done nothing for us. Reform, Tories have done nothing for us. What have they done for us? Nothing. We're still working our bollocks off. We're still doing... sorry, this word. We're still working our asses off. We're still doing everything we're supposed to be doing. We're doing everything we possibly can, yet we've got less money, we've got less opportunities, we've got less of everything. Some people can't even let the girlfriends go to the shop because they're scared that they might get anything happening to them, because it's gone that way now everywhere.
So what needs changing in your local area, your local community? Wigan, Manchester, even Liverpool. I know, I speak to so many people from these areas, and I know what needs changing, but I want to hear it from yourself.
I don't want to book. I don't go to Manchester from Bury.
Restore, that's what needs changing. We need Restore. More than anything else, we need Restore. We need them badly, because there's nobody actually saying what the real issue is, and the real issue is we've got too many people feeding off the system and not paying into it. We're crippling. We've got me, myself, I've got mates in there, there's other working men in here. We all work. We just work hard, sorry. But we're doing it, and I sit back me now, I'm only 27, I've got 2 kids, I've got a beautiful missus at home, and I love the life of no, it's from me. And I think to myself, what am I doing this for, other than for them? But half of it's going to someone else who's done nothing for the country, done nothing for anybody else, done nothing for any of these fine gentlemen here. They're just feeding off the system like leeches, because that's what they are, leeches. They're just feeding off the system while we feed them, because that's all we're doing. And I sit there and I think, why am I doing it anymore? I might as well just figure out how you rig the system, say I've got some sort of formal depression, and just claim PIP, because that's what everyone else is doing. But I won't, because that's not who I am. I've got honour. I'm a man. That's what we need more of. We need men. We need real men to stand up and go, you know what? We need honour. We need it now more than ever. And I think Rupert Low is an honourable man. He stands there and he will change the country and he will tell people enough is enough. You're not feeding off the system anymore. He'll build infrastructure. Because I work in construction, I need that. I need infrastructure because that's my bread and butter is construction. And it's construction because we didn't get good grades in school. So we went into construction and they welcomed us with open arms. And look at us now. We're all doing okay, we're surviving, but that's what it is. It's surviving. Why are we surviving? We don't need to be. We could be living, but we're not, because we're too busy feeding everybody else so they can live.
And I want one final word from you on, imagine you had the entirety of the British public in front of you right now. What would your message to them be?
Please vote for a start, please. Please vote for Rupert Low. If you're in his area, vote for him. And if you're not and you've got a candidate who's standing boldly, because it's going to take some guts for someone to stand for a star, because they're saying Farage is far right. They ain't seen, you know what I mean? And it's not even close. He's saying way more than what they're saying. There's not even got a word from him in the dictionary. So it's going to take some guts for anybody who's standing as a Restore candidate. Just more to them, stick at it, because people like me and people like everybody else in here who really do appreciate you, and thank you very much for standing for Restore, because you're brilliant.
My friend, I've got to say, of all the interviews I've ever done, and I've done probably over 1,000 at this point, that's the best interview I've ever done.
That's from me. I follow it like it's my heart. It really matters. It really matters.
Well done.
But it's not just the money, it's the fear. He's standing there in the heart of northern England, telling us that blokes are scared to let their girlfriends go to the shop alone because of what might happen to them. This isn't a perception. This isn't a shambles that can be fixed with a fresh coat of paint. This is a hostile takeover of our communities. And today, we are going to perform a forensic audit on the interview that has set the internet on fire. We're going to look at why the silent majority is finally finding its voice in the most unlikely of places, and why Rupert Low is the only man with the balls to hit the issues head on. Right, let's treat this video like a piece of evidence in a grand jury trial. The witness is a young man, salt of the earth. He's 27, he's got 2 kids, he's in construction. Now, if you're a 55-plus bloke watching this, I want you to listen to him. We've spent years worrying that the next generation has been brainwashed by the nitwits in the education system. But this lad, he's the antidote. He talks about honour. He says he could rig the system, he could claim depression, get on PIP and sit at home while you and I pay for his lifestyle. That's what everyone else is doing, according to him. But he won't. Why? Because he's a man, because he has a spine. But look at the forensic reality he's describing. He's working his arse off, yet he's got less money, less opportunity, and less safety than his father had. And then he brings up the turning point, the moment the Westminster bubble was finally exposed for the fraud it is, the rape inquiry. He mentions Nigel. Now, we all know Nigel, the man who's built a career on talking a good game. But when it came to the inquiry into those horrible, wretched human beings who abused those beautiful, innocent girls in our northern towns, Nigel blinked. He said we couldn't do it. And what did Rupert Low do? He didn't dance around it. He didn't give us the baby food. He said, all right, we'll do it then. And he did. That is why Restore Britain is gaining ground in places like Makerfield. Because for the first time in 30 years, there is a politician who isn't looking for a middle ground with the criminals. He's looking to restore the one thing that actually matters, accountability. The establishment is shirty about it. They call it far right. The lad in the video laughed at that. He said they ain't seen nothing yet. He knows that demanding safety for your wife and daughter isn't extreme, it's common sense. We need to look at the chain reaction that has led to this moment. I've lived through every economic cycle since the 70s. I remember when the social contract was a real thing. You worked, you paid in, you got a pension. And in the meantime, the state kept the streets safe and the borders closed. But since Tony Blair got his hands on the levers, we've seen a controlled decline. They've created a two-tier system that is currently crushing the life out of the British working man. Tier 1, the leeches, people who know how to play the system, claim PIP for diddly-squat reasons and live off the productivity of others. Tier 2, you, the construction worker in Makerfield, the small business owner in Kent, the pensioner in Blackpool. You're the ones paying the highest taxes in 70 years. You're the ones facing the muck heap of bureaucracy every time you try to build something. And you're the ones being told to tolerate mass immigration that is hollowing out your high streets and hollowing out your safety. Think about the domino effect for your savings. When you have a massive population that is feeding off the system without paying in, the currency loses its value. The management has to borrow more to pay for the leeches. When they borrow more, inflation stays sticky. When inflation stays sticky, your private pension, the one you worked 40 years for, is liquidated by stealth. And why does the high street decline? It isn't just online shopping. It's because the silent majority is staying at home because they don't recognise their own town anymore. When a 27-year-old man says he can't let his girlfriend go to the shop, that is the final straw. That is a society that has reached the point of collapse. The nitwits in London will tell you that crime is falling. They'll show you a spreadsheet. But this lad is showing you the reality. He's showing you that the porkies told at the dispatch box don't survive a walk down a street in Wigan. We are living through a hostile takeover. The management in Westminster has decided they prefer the leeches and the foreign gangs to the law-abiding taxpayer. Why? Because the leeches are easy to manage with benefits and the gangs are too scary to confront. But the patriot, he's the only one who actually asks for accountability, and that makes him the enemy of the state.
Now, the BBC and the mainstream will tell you that the vote is being split. They'll say that by backing Restore Britain, people are just helping Labour. But here is the truth. They are hiding from you. The vote isn't being split, it's being restored. The lad in the video said it perfectly. I voted for Reform because Restore weren't on that paper. If Restore were on that paper, I'd have voted for them. Why? Because Reform has become part of the shambles. They've started dancing around the issues. They've started worrying about what the Guardian thinks of them. The silent majority doesn't want Tory light. They don't want UKIP 2.0. They want a man like Rupert Low who will build infrastructure. Think about the construction worker's point. He needs infrastructure. That's his bread and butter. But the government doesn't build infrastructure for the British people anymore. They build refugee centres. They build temporary accommodation. They build bike lanes to nowhere to satisfy a net zero target. The straw man is the idea that we have to choose between the red shambles and the blue shambles. Rubbish. We need a common sense party that understands that you don't build a nation by feeding leeches and importing gangs. You build it by welcoming with open arms the people who want to work in construction, the people who want to start businesses, and the people who have honour. The so what here is that the management is terrified of this young man. They are terrified that a 27-year-old construction worker is more articulate and honest than the entire Labour front bench combined. They want him to be clueless. They want him to be apathetic. But he's stirring, and he's finding out that he's not alone. So, let's look at the chain reaction for the next 12 months. Today, a viral video of a working man in Makerfield. In 6 months, the Makerfield by-election results. In a year, the
And
Restore
that was the
Britain
person that
model,
was there at
honest,
Tommy
local,
Robson's rally night when
radical,
they said,
spreads to every
restart the
northern
dip.
town.
It was this guy that went,
If Rebecca Shepherd pulls off an upset,
Rebecca,
or
that's
even
her
if she
name,
just
Rebecca Shepherd,
batters
yeah.
the establishment with a huge
Oh,
vote
thank
share, the
you.
Westminster
Yes,
bubble will be in a state of absolute panic,
She looks
because
alright,
it proves
she
that the
looks
working class has finally figured out the scam. Think about the pensioner in Blackpool again.
Yep.
She's watching this
And she's
27-year-old
in Wigan,
lad,
this lady.
and she's thinking, he's right. That's my grandson he's talking about. That's the high street I remember. The domino effect is the return of local pride. When people stop surviving and start living again, the controlled decline stops. But to do that, you have to tell people enough is enough.
Yeah.
You have to stop feeding everybody else so they can live while you're crippling. Rupert Low is the catalyst. He is the man who is giving the silent majority the guts to stand boldly. The lad said it best. It's going to take some guts for someone to stand for Restore, because they're saying she's far right. Well, if wanting a safe street, a functioning welfare system, and an honest government is far right, then half the country is currently standing boldly.
Yeah.
The muck heap is being cleared, and the nitwits in London are the ones who are going to be sad on election night. Real men to stand up and go, you know what, we need honour. The voice of Makerfield has spoken. It's real, it's angry, and it's right. We're at a crossroads. We can either keep feeding the system until we're all surviving on crumbs, or we can restore the nation, one constituency at a time.
Yay.
Rupert Low is doing his bit. The construction workers in Wigan are doing theirs. Now it's your turn. Are you ready for real change, or are you happy with the shambles? Type honour in the comments if you believe it's time for real men and women to take back our country. Type leeches if you've had enough of the welfare abuse, hollowing out our economy. I read every single comment, and believe me, the management in Westminster is reading them too. They are looking for the Rupert wave. The mainstream media will try to bury this video. They'll try to call this lad a legend in a patronising way while ignoring his message. But we won't. If you want the forensic, straight-talking, pub-logic truth that the establishment is trying to censor, hit that subscribe button right now. Share this with one person who needs to hear the voice of Makerfield. The country is ours, not the leeches, not the gangs, and certainly not the nitwits behind the podiums. It's time we acted like it.
News, go to gbnews.com.
That rule of thing for Makerfield. Wow. Wow. That is amazing. That is amazing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'd like to associate myself with